the August 1st meeting. So we aren't going to have our usual beginning with music. We usually have live music, but the people are not here tonight. So what we do have going on, first let me tell you what we've been doing. For the past several months, our Revolution Contra Costa County and our Revolution East Bay have been working on paperwork and banking. And I just really want to mention Susanna Williams, who is the co-chair on this, and Michael Chang have both put a lot of energy into this happening. But I am happy to say we are all now, our Revolution East Bay, we're one group. We're been working on the bylaws, getting them up to date and getting them so they support both groups from the merger, and we'll be finalizing them really soon, and we'll send them out to members once that happens. We're also going to be having committees. We don't have a lot of committees at this point, but we will be having some, and we welcome people to get involved that way. It's a good way to get involved, but probably at the next meeting, we'll talk more about that. Some of us have been going out to various political actions, such as Medicare for All, and doing things to support Janani Ramachandran. In June, we had a big fundraiser for Nina Turner, who's about to get elected, I believe. We're starting to set up tables on Fridays at the Old Oakland Farmers Market and on Sundays at the Temescal Market. And for the next month, we'll be doing those, and they'll run roughly from 9 to noon. And if you want to be part of one of those, let us know in the chat or send us an email or something, and we'll give you further details. Right now, we're going to be concentrating on helping Janani get elected. We're also going to be part of a big Our Revolution California National series of phone banks for Janani, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Let me just introduce some of our board members. My name's Carol Coyote, and I'm the chair. Susanna Williams is the co-chair. Michael Chang is treasurer. Gordon Miller is secretary. And then we have a number of members at large on the board. Jake Verghese, who does a lot of technical stuff, and he's the representative for our Revolution California group. Ina Silva is the art director. We also have Mark Van Landet, Ritsky Medema, Sherry Johansson, Steve Finch, Dana Morales, Joaquin McLean, all of who are active in different areas. So we're about ready now, I think, to move into the speakers. Tonight we have 3 speakers. We have Amar Shergill, who's chair of the Progressive Caucus of the California Democratic Party. We have a number of people from the KPFA candidate group who are going to be talking about why it's important that you get to be a member and vote in this. And then we will have Janani Ramachandran, and besides her, somebody from her campaign. And we're going to talk about the phone bank that we're having for her and how people can get out there and help her. It's really crucial that she get elected. And we'll have a short update on TOPA, and we will have various announcements. At the end, we allow anybody to make an announcement on anything. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to start with Susanna's going to introduce our first speaker.
Great, thank you, Carol. Thanks everybody for being here. Hope everybody had a great weekend. So our first speaker, Amar Shergill. Amar is a trial attorney here in Northern California. As Carol mentioned, he's chair of the Progressive Caucus of the California Democratic Party, which is by far the most active and largest caucus in the entire party. He is leading a party fight that's getting pretty darn heated and much needed regarding fossil fuel money and law enforcement money. So he's going to come to us tonight, give us a little update on the e-board that's coming up for the California Democratic Party, talk about what's going on to, bring some light to the party for what kind of money they accept. It's not good. And then he wants to talk about the future of activism within the party. So without further ado, Amar, thank you so much for being here and take it away.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me on. A lot of stuff that Susanna, thank you for the introduction. A lot of stuff you mentioned in there, so I'm going to try to tailor my remarks a little bit. How much time? Because I want to make sure we leave tons of time for Janani, because she's awesome and we have to elect her.
You can have as long as you want.
We got some time, don't worry.
All right, good. So yeah, so we have the California Democratic Party e-board coming up at the end of the month. And I do want to talk about some of the stuff that we're leading up to there. But before I get into this path, talking about the challenges working with the California Democratic Party, I think it's important that we take time to talk about some stuff that's good, that sometimes passes under the radar. Like we in this last legislative session, we got public banking bill passed, which is awesome. We have an extension of racial justice in the courtroom, which is great. We have money going from the state government directly into people's pockets. We have money from the federal government going directly into people's pockets. And I think it's pretty fair to say that none of those things are on deck unless the progressive movement is leaning in hard. So it's easy for us to remember the things that aren't going right, but I think it's also important, especially for me, in the role that I have, to recognize that our organizing gets some wins too. And I'm hoping that we organize behind Janani and we shock some people and get another win there in the East Bay. Look, if we can elect Alex Lee in the Bay Area, then we can elect Janani Ramachandran too. So thank you all to everybody that's committed to that, and whether you sign up with her campaign or through our evolution or wherever else, that's key. But turning to what's going on with the California Democratic Party, and I'm not sure how much of a history lesson we need with the party, but let's say this is that for decades it has been part of the problem, taking a lot of money, millions of dollars from all the wrong people, funneling it to all the wrong legislators, and preventing us from passing bills which would create a society based in equity. And folks maybe don't realize, but I've been in the party long enough to say the following with certainty, is that the primary function of the California Democratic Party is to take in money, to clean it, and then to deliver it either directly to candidates or indirectly through things that support candidates. So when we see hundreds of thousands of dollars of fossil fuel money, or millions of dollars worth of law enforcement money, or similar amounts from the developer real estate industry, none of that is by accident, and it goes through the party, because when the party spends it, the folks that see those expenditures, that see the California Democratic Party is on the line as the folks spending it, and it doesn't look like all those people that we oppose. So that's the a little bit of history, but as far as recent history, I think I'll go into a little bit more detail, because I think it really sets up what's happening here at the executive board meeting at the end of the month, and we might need your help with that. So here's what happened when Rusty Hicks was elected through a coalition of legislators and corporate Democrats to lead the California Democratic Party. I met with him, and I think others had similar conversations, where he said all the right things, that climate is an existential crisis and racial justice is important. And what he encouraged us all to do is to work through the existing processes of the party, through committees, build consensus. And then once we build that consensus, we bring it in front of the general body of the executive board, and we can do some of the things to get that dirty money out of the party. And that turned out really to be fool's gold, is that in 2020, there was an ad hoc committee that said stop taking fossil fuel money into the party. And there were some other things also that they said stop taking money from. And then in 2020, we had our finance committee that voted unanimously to say, stop taking law enforcement money into the party. And rather than have those two reports come in front of the body, which is what we do for everything, resolutions, rules, platform, those reports were just shunted to the side and we never got to vote on them. And what we found out was that while delegates, grassroots activists were working on this process of building consensus, which I think is appropriate. Look, not everybody in the party is going to agree with us. You have to put in the work and have the conversations and get folks on your side. That's the path you chose to be in the party. They're not all with you all the time, but that's what we did, and we built that consensus. But what we've learned is that while we were doing that, the party was taking the fossil fuel money that we were banning. So 6 days after the report from our committee to the party saying, don't take fossil fuel money, Rusty Hicks took $65,000 worth of fossil fuel money. Through his term, he took $330,000 worth of money that he knew just had no place in the party, even if there was no committee report, right? It's just a bad idea to take that money. It just is. I mean, if you look around what's going on, you shouldn't be taking that money. And we also saw the result of it in 2020 and 2021, is that all of the bills on climate issues, we couldn't get them passed. And the really tough bills on law enforcement, we couldn't get those passed either. We couldn't get past the basic stuff that they have already passed in places like Texas, which are controlled by Republicans, right? We can't even get set-offs for fossil fuel infrastructure, which really doesn't even solve the problem. It just says, if you're going to pollute, don't pollute right next to my house. Don't pollute right in this low-income area. Don't pollute right next to the school. And we failed on a lot of those bills. And I think R.L. Miller said it best in an op-ed. She's the former chair of the Environmental Caucus and current DNC member. She said that what we're looking at is really the end of the big idea era, the big legislation era in California, in that we used to be leaders and now we're not even followers. We just turn down bills that others pass in conservative areas. So that's what sets up where we are now. What we are doing right now is contacting every executive board member in the state, and there's about less than 400, about 370, 380 of them in the state, and asking them that at this upcoming board meeting, there'll be a published agenda by the party, but we should amend that agenda, accept the committee reports, and vote based on that consensus to stop taking fossil fuel money, to stop taking law enforcement money, because there's consensus amongst Democrats on those two issues. But here's what we also know, is that Chair Hicks doesn't like to relinquish power. He doesn't like the idea that the executive board might actually control its own agenda and control its own party. What we're hearing is that we might have a fight ahead of us. So I might come back to you in a week or so after we've contacted all these executive board members and ask you to contact the ones in the East Bay that are wrong on this issue. And we might ask you to contact folks in other parts of the Bay Area that are wrong on these issues. Because here's the thing, is it sounds like this is inside baseball party politics, but it actually has a chance to really change the discussion on these issues in California and across the state. Look, I'm proud to lead the largest caucus in the largest party on the left coast and lead a leftist organization, but it doesn't matter at all if we don't get these things done. And what we have the potential to do is to not only say that we have some consensus, but to say proudly in media for everybody in the nation to hear that in California, Democrats don't take fossil fuel money. And in California, Democrats don't take law enforcement money. Not when our siblings and friends are being incarcerated for no good reason, not when our state is literally on fire, and not when just a few weeks ago we saw over 1,000 people die on the West Coast just because they could not escape the heat. And in California, that status quo can't be acceptable. And what I think what I feel really positive about is that the e-board, the executive board, is a far more progressive institution than the general body, because the general body includes a lot of appointed delegates appointed by legislators. The executive board is a lot more folks like from your central committee or your ADEM electeds, a lot more folks that are progressive, and a lot of folks that even if they, sometimes vote to support status quo candidates, on the issues, they're actually pretty good. So that's what we're doing. It has the potential for some pretty serious conflict. And I'm going to, and maybe others like Brandon Harami and others will call and ask for your help, ask for you to make a call or a text, just to the 5 or 6 people that happen to be in your area. So I want to thank you for that, for the time to explain what's going on there. I'm happy to answer questions about that process. I know I went through it sort of quick. And then I wanted to finish off with just a little bit about how this reflects on my activism, where I think the Progressive Caucus is going, and sort of activism in general when it comes to the California Democratic Party. But if there's any questions, feel free to raise your hand, or Suzanne, I'll let you manage that however you want. I'm going to take a swig.
Yeah, I mean, Amar, you want to just take questions at the end?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about activism in the party, where how I feel, and I think what is rapidly becoming the consensus amongst the progressive leadership and progressive delegates in general, is that for those folks that came in recently with the Bernie wave, let's call it, we have done what the party has asked of us, right? We have gone through the appropriate systems and consensus building, and we've tried working the party's way. And what we see more and more is that if you do everything the right way, you get the outcome that Bernie Sanders got in 2020, which is an amalgamation of corporations, media, centrists, corporate Democrats that will do everything they can to ensure that their gravy train continues and that progressive ideals are not instituted. And to the extent that we see some movement, it's only because we have fought for it every step of the way. And in California, we actually see a very distinct entrenchment of status quo politics. And a lot of it is connected to what's going on in the Republican Party, which is not necessarily what you might think logically. But what I mean to say is that as Donald Trump and Republicans enter into this death spiral for California Republicans, and the Republican Party gets less and less credible, and hasn't elected a statewide official for a decade, can't get anywhere close to a majority in the Assembly or in the Senate. What that also means is that amoral politicians who don't really care what which party they're in, so long as they're advancing their personal agenda, they increasingly end up in the Democratic Party, and the money that they work with increasingly ends up in the Democratic Party. I think there's a pretty good argument that progressive politics in California is actually better off in a 60-40 split or a 55-45 split of Democrat Republican than a 70-30 split, because that 70-30 split brings in a ton of Republican candidates and money into our party. And that's what we see now, is that we can't get basic climate bills passed. Anything that affects the bottom line of the real estate industry, we just can't get passed anymore. And what that means to me, and the consensus I think that's building, is that, look, when the party behaves like that, and the institutions are no longer responsive to grassroots activists like us, when we have to fight and scrape to get Janani elected, but really it's hard to get the entire party to buy into hardly anything, that in those moments, what we have to look to is the historical truth of the United States, is that whenever we have instituted real, fundamental, transformational change in the United States, whether it's women's suffrage or the civil rights movement or marriage equality, it has never been because we did a really good job organizing at e-board or organizing the party or electing a bunch of delegates and playing this inside game. It has always been because we put bodies in the streets and because we targeted with direct action those institutions that we felt were vulnerable and created public support for the policies and shame people if we have to. And that in turn forces the party to respond in some way. And I think we're at that point, and I think all of us can agree that Black Lives Matter has done more for the civil rights movement than any other organization in the last decade. Sunrise has done more in the last 5-6 years of existence than maybe all of us combined in the environmental movement. And it's because they're willing to put bodies in the streets. And I am increasingly at that point where I'm looking to see how can Democrat delegates, Democrat elected officials inside the party, delegates, committee members, should be looking at the party and seeing where in the party should we be directing our activism, and should it be direct action against the elected officials or party leaders or party institutions, as opposed to just trying to pass resolutions and platform measures, etc. And I increasingly feel that we need to go direct action. We need bodies in the streets, and that if that means creating alliances and working more closely with Sunrise or BLM, that might be the right way to go. So I'm happy to hear your thoughts on that. I know that a lot of you are probably there a long time ago and saying, Amar, how long did it take you to get here? Like, we've known this for quite a while. But in my role, I felt that due diligence is important, to try as best we can. But even this old suburban dad with 3 kids is at that point. And I think we're seeing that consensus. And I think a few months from now, we might look back and say, yeah, that was tough, and it was uncomfortable for a lot of people, and it required some effort, but we are on the path to transformational change, as opposed to the marginal change, which leads us to a state on fire and a planet that's uninhabitable for our children, 15, 20 years from now. All right, that is all of my long diatribe. I am happy to hear your thoughts. I actually would love to hear your thoughts because it helps me figure out whether I'm on the right path or not.
Okay, if people have questions or comments, if they would raise their hand on chat, and we'll get started calling on people. Okay, we already have somebody, Paola.
Hey, it looks like Brian in this chat was there first. So Brian, why don't you go ahead first, and then we can go to Paola.
Yeah, thank you, Amir. Appreciate Brian Crow, Open Education Association, Grievance Committee, and Crisis Action Team co-chair. I thank you for your thoughts. Just quick, as I preface this, I was talking to my daughter who's 16 just last week, and just to kind of see what her generation thinks going forward. And she's like, Dad, none of my friends are capitalist. We are either progressives or socialists. Some of them are communists. She's like, Dad, neoliberal capitalism is dead. All my friends get it. So it's like, what is your generation going to do to make sure there's something left for us? And this is just exactly coming from my daughter, who's very smart. I think we need to look at the trajectory of our young people. Understand climate change. They understand greed. They understand gender politics, gender equality. They get all these concepts already. So I think our thing is we need to get over our own egos and say, what are we going to leave to the next generation to make it so that they have a viable livelihood without the planet literally burning up? And I think we're just going to have to get over ourselves and get with it. And frankly, our institutions, as you correctly said, Mr. Amar, which were designed in the 70s, our statutory schemes and laws are still designed by Governor Ronald Reagan, who has been gone for a long time. It's time for a clean sheet of paper and create a new paradigm for our kids. And if we're not going to do that, we're wasting our time. But I think basically my daughter lit a fire under me, and that's the direction we need to go. I know that's not really a question, but it's more commentary. Thank you.
Well, thank you for saying that. I have 2 kids in college and 1 in high school, and I think you're having some of the same conversations in your home that we're having. And I think, for people of our generation, I look at it now, and maybe we have an unhealthy addiction to trying to do it the right way, and that it has taken us too long to realize the obvious facts on the ground, that doing it the right way and the safe way is just not going to work. And it's time for it. I think it's time for us to all realize it. But Joe, let me ask you something, Brian. So does that mean you're ready to put yourself and on the line and go out in the streets and fight for this against the Democratic Party? I mean,
I have to say I'm proudly to the left of most of the people in my teachers union. I'm already on the left because I see the urgency. I think that looking at my grandparents' generation, and they talk about having these 11 o'clock at night meetings to set up a union at the post office, these little fireside chat-like things they did, like it was real grassroots community one-on-one organizing, when they had a lot less rights than they have now. And they basically did a lot of things on principle. And they realized if we take a little bit of a collective risk together, we're not asking for the head of the snake to be cut off, but we all put in our contribution collectively, it makes us all safer. And I think that's kind of the spirit I go by. But I don't mind being, the voice, because I've always been that kind of person, because I think that our mortality basically is what we leave behind to the next generation. That's our contribution. It's not so much vanity and our acquirement of wealth and comfort while we're here. I think that our generation, kind of a mix between our grandparents and then kind of what happened in the late 60s. I think that's kind of where we're kind of stuck, and maybe that's why we've been a little bit more cautious. But I think that each person, to your question, is going to come to this realization on their own time and in their own moment. And really, like, I think it happens to all of us. Something happens in our life, a discussion or an event where we just say, you know what, I'm going to have to make some pivotal changes. And each person is going to come to that on their own time and their own moment. But I think we're getting to that moment because, to your point, the earth is telling us, just a short story, my wife's uncle is a scientist at Los Alamos, and I talked to him and he says, yes, we did a geological study and the ocean is trying to cool itself off because we're screwing it up. And the earth is telling us if we don't do something about climate change, the earth is just going to get rid of us like the dinosaurs. It's just that simple. And I think we can't be have so much ego to think that the universe doesn't know best. I think that's kind of the sentiment that we need to push. And again, let go. The status quo, it may have worked 40 years ago. It's a new generation of students who are on Snapchat and Twitter and Facebook and TikTok, and they communicate differently, but I think we can reach them.
Yeah. I hope we can reach them, and I hope we will, develop some of our own gumption to go do it. I'm talking about direct action in the California Democratic Party, but really all the institutions which lift up the California Democratic Party, whether they're unions or nonprofits, the more progressive folks in each one of those need to look at that organization and see, okay, what is the direct action in this organization that needs to happen to change the conversation? But thank you for asking that question and commentary.
Okay, yeah, that was great. I love your daughter. It's always just so encouraging to hear where young people are at. So we have time for 2 questions. First, Paola, and then Matthew. So, and then we're going to have to move on to the KPFA segment. Okay, go for it.
Sure. Hey, everybody. Paola La Verde here. Berkeley resident. So I'm curious about how it is that the party is trying to get more people of color, more Latinos, more monolingual, or more, people who are just are interested in getting involved in politics. I had a visit from my sister who was apolitical. When I was talking politics to her, she basically said, "I'm not interested in politics. I don't care." And so, what is the plan? How can we get these people involved? She's a very passionate person, and I was telling her the reason why we need to vote and keep our governor in office and not let a Republican take his spot. But, I can tell you, I've volunteered for Janani's campaign. I'm willing to make phone calls in Spanish. I haven't heard back. So what are we doing to really get people involved and wanting to get those other folks that, aren't like us in the sense of aren't politically involved? All of us here are politically involved. How do we get the non-politically involved involved? That's my question. Thanks. And thank you. And I do agree with Brian. I have a 17-year-old son, also apolitical because I'm political. So, he's not interested in seeing what his mother does. But what are we leaving? I'm beginning to feel a little guilt about that I brought a child into the world, which is, now burning up. What are we leaving for our kids? And it's up to us, those of us that are really involved, to try to really push for a difference, because, what's going to be left for them when they're in their 30s and 40s and 50s. So thank you.
No, thank you. That's a really good question, because when we talk about direct action, it's not going to happen because, the 15 of us are going to show up somewhere. We're going to need much larger numbers. And when I think about getting people involved, there's, in this fight, there's really two ways. One is that for the folks in your community, you have the conversations with them about what they care about, and then identify a local organization that is working on the issues they care about. I think we often make a mistake to get everybody into Our Revolution, get everybody into Progressive Caucus, or everybody into the Democratic Party. But what is far easier is to identify what they are concerned about, connect them with an organization, maybe one you're not even involved in, that is working on those issues. Because one thing we know is that once folks get on that path, they tend to stay on it because they see and are energized by other folks working on the issues they care about. So I think that's the most important conversation with your neighbors. And it's going to be different every time. And you just by showing that you care about the issues they care about, and that you're willing to support their activism in a way that works for them as opposed to works for you, I think that goes a long way. The second part of it, though, is how to inspire people. And I think that's the challenge that we have now in the Democratic Party, is that we're not inspiring folks. I mean, folks have, folks figure that, okay, I got to vote, so who am I going to vote for? The Democrats seem like they're more or less aligned with me, so who are they endorsing? But folks aren't really inspired. And when we think about what inspired us, or what we see historically that inspired us, speeches are nice, but what's inspiring is, average people coming together, getting in the streets, doing the hard work on an issue that we have consensus on, that we all care about, to lifting each other up. And I don't think we do enough of that anymore in political activism. And certainly Bernie Sanders created this new wave for us, and now it's up to us now to look around and see, all right, how are we going to recreate that in our communities? And if that's joining Sunrise or BLM or March for Our Lives, I think we all need to look at those organizations that are putting bodies in the streets and join them.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, Matthew. And we have limited time. I would like to say no more than 4 minutes for the entire interaction.
Okay. I also want to say people should join DSA because Amar didn't list that.
Well, yeah, DSA. Obviously, how did I not list DSA? They're awesome.
There's yeah. Anyway, so here's my question. My question for you. As I'm sure, as you're aware, and many people on the call might be aware, the way the California Democratic Party's delegates are elected, they come from basically three buckets, are roughly in thirds. About a third are elected through the 8M elections every 2 years. About a third are appointed by the county party, and about a third are done through appointments by the most of the elected officials in California at the state and federal level get to appoint a bunch of people, and also the officers. Those first two methods are pretty democratic, representing the will of the party. Because first one, because it's direct elections. The second one, because it's the county parties which make the appointments are directly elected, other than unfortunately a few spots for, again, electeds like state senators and party reps, but mostly elected. But that third one is obviously not. So you have people like getting to vote, get to appoint people to, vote on their own endorsements and stuff. And so what we've seen is that even when we get a majority or even a healthy majority in those first two buckets, we can still lose the vote, like we lost with Kimberly Ellis in the first time she ran, and then just everything, office, electing any officer, voting who to endorse, including at pre-endorsement conferences. So and I think personally that we're never going to get the party working. We're never going to get officers in who are willing to reform the party until we can fix these things. And it's also true at the e-boards, though slightly less so. My question is, like, what are the plan? How do you think we can win those changes? Like how are we going to win those changes? Because I don't see us being able to get a majority of the delegate seats and thus actually control the party unless that's fixed and the power is weakened or eliminated of the electeds.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think there's a pretty strong argument that even on our best day with a 4-year plan, organizing as hard as we can, traditional ways, that it is very difficult to gain control of the Democratic Party or put it in a progressive space as opposed to where it is now. And if that's the case, we shouldn't abandon it, but we should certainly look at what we should be doing alongside that traditional organizing to make it more likely. And I come back to what we were talking about before, is that historically we don't move these institutions through traditional organizing, and that it is going to take bodies in the streets, direct action. And I know that DSA has been really good at that, and other organizations too. And we're going to have to build those coalitions in the streets to make it just so very uncomfortable for these mostly anonymous party apparatchiks to do what they do, which is just vote to uplift the worst kind of people. And then also for the elected officials and legislators to make it very difficult on them in their communities to operate with impunity, as they often have on the most important issues of the day. I mean, we have folks in every community in the state, really, that worked with legislators that refused to pass basic climate bills, and then who voted for, endorsed, refused to do accountability on those same people. And we'll see Sunrise, I think it's tomorrow or sometime soon here, they'll be back in front of Senator Hertzberg's home. And I think we need more of that. And it shouldn't just be Sunrise, BLM, or DSA. It should start to be Democrat delegates and our revolution and folks that align with the Democratic Party to call out our own party. I just don't think there's much of a runway left for us not to engage in that direct action.
Okay, thank you so much, Amir, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure.
Hey, and we hope you come back, okay?
Yeah, anytime.
All right. Okay,
Amar.
we need to move on now. And I'm going to turn this over to Carol Wolfley and Jake Varghese and other people that are running for KPFA. And I think Carol will introduce the people.
Thank you. And I'm Carol Wolfley. I'm secretary of the local station board. And we have a group of KPFA Protectors, local station board candidates. And you can see the names up there. Jake is one of the candidates, Don Goldmacher, Fred, Catherine, Zach, Brian, Leslie, and Carlos Cohan. One of our main goals for KPFA Radio, which is a progressive radio station that has a large broadcast signal over Northern California, is to double our membership and to build our listenership at this challenging time. We protect KPFA's programming. KPFA is the only station with a full news department in the network, and is opposed to corporate underwriting. KPFA recently developed an online resource guide that I think you all might be interested in. It's about in opposition to voter suppression, and showing all of the different cases across the country that are coming up, and all of the actions and many organization actions in opposition to that. And to see that program guide, you can go to kpfa.org and scroll down to Protect the Vote. And that's part of our community engagement. Another aspect of our community engagement is to work with climate emergency issues. And right now, KPFA is an emergency alert station. And as we face evacuations, drought, air pollution, and devastating loss from climate emergencies, KPFA is essential as an FCC emergency alert station and plays a key role in providing urgently needed information and resources. And I think it's important for you all out in the street to have coverage. A lot of people are doing really important work, and it needs to be covered. We protect community-based programming, including coverage about racial justice, peace, the economy, immigrant rights, LGBTQ and women's issues, healthcare, housing, and more. Jake, if you want to scroll up, thanks. We support technical expansion, and KPFA has 4 extensive training and internship programs with the news and for youth and minorities and women especially, and operations training. And those programs are key in allowing our station to bring new voices onto the air while still having them trained to produce quality programming. We work to restructure Pacifica's governance and financial management, and I think the other candidates will talk more about that. There's a main goal is to protect KPFA's assets, and that means our building in light of the Pacifica Network's financial problems and dysfunction. KPFA is essentially carrying the network. KPFA's building has been used as collateral for a $3.2 million loan for debts incurred at WBAI. And if you look here, this is a chart. You can see how much the different stations are contributing to the network for the sustaining the network. Another goal of ours is to increase representation for stations with more members. And if you look down towards the membership, you'll see KPFA has over 15,000 members. KPFT has less than 4,000. So we want to, right now the current structure is that each station elects 4 national board directors. Thus, directors from smaller stations form the majority on the national board. And they drain KPFA of our vital resources, and our building is at stake. So our job is to protect KPFA. KPFA candidate endorsers include Mitch Jeserich. These are programmers, producers, Kat Brooks, Brian Edwards Teekard, Eileen Alfendary, Richard Walensky, Tim Lynch, and many more. If you are a KPFA member who's donated in the past year ending June 30th, please vote for all 8 of our KPFA Protectors candidates. Ballots will arrive by email on August 15th from the Pacifica Foundation. There are over 20 candidates running, so please remember our KPFA Protectors candidates because it is essential that we work with the station, build the station. We have an amazing, diverse management team who are skilled and represent many communities. For more information about the election, or if you need help getting a ballot or to request a paper ballot or to endorse our candidates or donate to this local station board campaign, please go to kpfaprotectors.org. And for more information about the station, go to kpfa.org. And to tune in, go to 94.1 FM. Thank you. And now I will be calling on the candidates, and I believe that Brian is first. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks, Carol. I'll be brief. I want the other candidates to get time, obviously, to say, what's on their thoughts. I'm Brian Crow. I've been teaching for 22 years. I'm a special education teacher in Oakland Unified School District, very active in my union. Now, one of the things for the station, I really want, particularly looking at our high school juniors and seniors, I really want to get them exposed to progressive media. They don't have a lot of options in the mainstream, CNN, Fox, MSNBC, and they're really hungry for answers, and KPFA largely has those answers. And so just start getting, particularly the high schools in Oakland, exposed to KPFA radio in the Berkeley office, and then they can start talking to their friends, and that's how you build more progressives. It's just word of mouth. And hey, what podcast are you listening to, in your iPhone? Oh, I'm listening to Brian Edwards Teekard talking about this. And that's how the conversations get started. So my interest is in really bringing the young people to progressive radio, progressive philosophy, and taking that forward into these bigger fights we're going to have going forward. So that's basically what I want to present. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And Leslie Howard is next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Leslie Howard, and I consider myself a yoga educator and an activist specifically around women's health issues. I have been a yoga instructor for 25 years, but I've developed a system that helps women stay away from pharmaceuticals and surgeries for some of the things that they may be going through. In addition to that work, I have a history of being politically involved on a national level. I worked with a group called Flip the House. Some of you may have know them. We were able to raise millions of dollars for the candidates. We brought candidates in from all over the country and did fundraisers for them. So my interest in running for the KPFA board is because I really, really, really care about independent journalism. The quality of shows that I experience on KPFA, I can't find them anywhere else. And I just think, given the times we're going through, I think there's nothing more important than that. Like Brian, I really, really want to engage the youth into I want to bring more young people in, which is something that I did. I was the president of the Democratic Club out in the Central Valley for a couple of years, and there were no young people at the meetings. And so we did things like we had a political art contest for young people that engaged a lot of young people coming in for that. That was one of the fun things we did. So I'm really interested in helping KPFA get on more secure footing with my fundraising experience and increasing listenership. So I hope you'll vote for our slate. thank you for listening. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Leslie. And next is Fred Dodsworth. I'm sorry, Zach is next. Zach Caldvier.
Okay. Hey, everybody. So my name is Zach. For the past 2 decades, I've served as a communications specialist and media relations expert, really on the front lines of a broad range of social, economic, and environmental justice issues. So this whole conversation today is really right down my alley, and I've loved every minute of it. I have a master's in telecommunications policy and a bachelor's in mass media. So this is a passion of mine, and I'm running for the board because I think independent progressive media is one of the cornerstones of a thriving democracy, and it's in peril. And I think this is very measurable in terms of the Pacifica Network, because despite growing audiences for publicly funded stations, progressive podcasts, online media, what we've seen is because of kind of a toxic brew, and I guess I'm going to be the attack dog here a little bit against some of the current board of the last 10 or 20 years, is we've seen corporate underwriting, incompetent leadership, and unmanageable bylaws that have really led Pacifica Network to potential peril and impending crisis and dwindling audiences at a time we need to be doing the opposite. And you probably know this, but maybe I'll give more of a macro perspective on why I think this is all so important. Is Pacifica and KPFA have a 75-year legacy of fostering peace through informed dialogue and serving as this commercial-free venue for progressive ideas that served as a model for public broadcasting. And I think in a lot of ways, they helped reshape the American landscape of the last century. And they did it by not just speaking truth, informing truth to power, speaking truth to power, but speaking truth about power. And I think we've seen that in their coverage, unflinching, unapologetic coverage of the McCarthy hearings and the Iran-Contra hearings, and the environmental and LGBTQ and civil rights and anti-Vietnam War movements. And I think that kind of coverage is more important now than ever. And so in an era dominated by giant media monopolies and right-wing power brokers, it's the need for objective, independent sources of news is more important now than ever. And I think KPFA can serve to not just counter effectively the relentless spread of hard right corporate propaganda, but also if we do not save and protect KPFA, we could lose the Pacifica Network to Christian radio and those very right-wing forces that we're trying to counter. So that's why I'm running, and I think our slate will do as good a job as I can imagine in serving these purposes. So thank you.
Thank you. And next is Fred Dodsworth.
Hi there. I actually recognize a lot of faces today. I've worked with several of the politicians and politically active folks that are on this call right now. I am a 30-year journalist. I have participated in stories that have gotten entire city councils overthrown. And I have, in fact, 20 years ago, did a story on KPFA that got the Pacifica board. Ken Ford on the board was forced to retire based upon what I did. And the thing that's so critical is that Pacifica Network covers over 60% of the voting population of the United States of America. And yet only KPFA in our community has its own news program, its own news department. And this has to be protected. We have to fight against the Fox, the Sinclairs, the One Americas. We have to reach out and grab a hold of our listeners to actually make them engaged and explain to them what's wrong. I have done this, and I'm joining now as a retired person because I have the time and the passion to work on this critical issue. But I'm going to need your support. We need to take control of Pacifica and of KPFA. We need to support a proud, strong journalism effort. We need to build inclusivity. We need to grow our membership. And we aren't going to do that if we sit on our hands. I understand the problem of young people. As a member of the Berkeley Citizens Action Steering Committee for the last 12 or 13 years, as a person who actually helped keep Berkeley Tenant Union alive and ran the tenant conventions, I know what it's like to fight these fights. And we need to fight these fights for Pacifica here and now. And I appreciate your support. I want you to vote for all 8 members of our board. We need to make change because, as you've all known, it's going down the wrong path. Our whole country is going down the wrong path, but we have the tools that can make a difference with your support.
Thank you. Thank you, Fred. And next is Carlos Cohan.
Okay, I was on mute, of course. Hi, everybody. I see some familiar faces. Some of you may remember me. I participated when we were having real physical meetings at our Revolution East Bay. It was maybe it's 2 years ago, maybe. So I participated in several of those meetings. I signed up, so it's nice to see you again. Very briefly, my story is a bit different from everybody else. I was born and raised in Argentina. I was a physicist. I studied physics, and I came to the US and became also an electronic engineer. And I worked in the Silicon Valley for over 30 years. Having said that, what saved me from being a nerd, maybe, was the fact that I became very active politically. I opposed very strongly the Pinochet regime in Chile and the Argentine junta. And being in the US, I wrote, I spoke at synagogues and churches. I tried to help as much as I could, and I obviously also got involved with KPFA. When I came to the Bay Area over 30 years ago, and I found KPFA, I couldn't believe it. I mean, KPFA became, for me, as necessary as the food that I was eating. It was, KPFA was the food for my soul. I always say that. And at this point, it is the first time I'm running for the local station board. And just like the others said, I'm running for 2 reasons, essentially. One is survival and the other one is growth. What I mean is the Pacifica network is in deep financial troubles. And I don't need to go, there is a lot of details floating around, but bottom line, the only station that is self-sustaining right now is KPFA. All the other 4 stations are losing money. And the Pacifica board is very incompetent, and that's being nice to them. They have lost the funding from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. They've lost like $7 million in the last 7-8 years. They have failed every audit since the 2015. So it's in bad shape. And we run the risk of losing the buildings, KPFA. So I'm running to try to help that situation. That's what I call survival. In terms of growth, as part of my work in Silicon Valley, for several years, I was a technical marketing manager and director. And I learned quite a bit about communication. So I'm hoping to help grow the audience and the membership. Like a couple of years ago, I wrote like a 5-page paper that I sent to KPFA, all with different ideas of how to grow the membership and raise money. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to help in that regard. Bottom line, yes, we will have a website, our own group. Our slate is going to be called KPFA Protectors.org. It's going to be active hopefully soon. Jake may know better than I do on that. And I encourage everybody to go to that website when it's active. look at us, look at each of our candidates, and like Fred said, support us all if you can vote, if you are a member of KPFA. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Carlos. And next is Jake Varghese.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jake Varghese, board member here at Our Revolution East Bay. I'm also a board member at Public Bank East Bay, and I'm also a staffer and senior architect for Progressive Coders Network, which used to be Coders for Sanders. The main reason I'm running for the KPFA board is A, two of the other board members here asked me to, so I thought, okay, this is good. And B, the more I study KPFA and the more I look around the rest of the basically world, the corruption of the corporate neoliberal propaganda machine is ridiculous. They already own every institution and we need something. And so KPFA is already here and it needs protection from the onslaught of that neoliberal wing and the corporatist propaganda that gets pushed out of it sometimes, or all the time really. So I want to help to stabilize that and protect it. And then once that's done, we need to expand and grow it. And then once that's done, we need to take that template and pass it around the rest of the network so that the rest of the network can also expand and grow correctly and basically be a wall of resistance against the propaganda. So that's my 2 cents of why I'm running. Hopefully you guys will, those of you that can, the members here can, will run for, vote for the whole slate. Thanks. And Carol, back to you.
Thank you. And Don Goldmacher is next.
Greetings, sisters and brothers in our revolution. Nice to see some familiar faces, though I've obviously not been attending for a while. But some of us worked together back in 2018 on Javanka Bethel's campaign, and that was a great deal of fun. What I want to say essentially is very simple. Earlier we had conversation about the climate emergency and climate chaos. KPFA provides a platform to amplify the entire movement for containing and adapting to the climate chaos that's going to continually be unfolding. As all of us here in California.
Can you tip your screen so we can see you?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Want to be able to see you.
I should know better.
Filmmaker.
As we here in California have been experiencing for the last several years, climate chaos is here. Each year it's going to get more intense because there's too much carbon in the atmosphere already. So we're going to have to learn how to adapt, mitigate, and go to zero carbon ASAP. One of the ways we can do that, of course, is by having programming on KPFA and the Pacifica Network that makes the climate emergency the priority. It centers all of the programming around this issue. Because if we can't wrap our arms around the climate emergency, we will not have a planet on which to engage in all the other issues. So I would ask you to do 2 things. If you are a member of KPFA, please vote for our team that you just saw. And you'll find that team at kpfaprotectors.org. If you are not yet a member of KPFA, I would encourage you to join KPFA for $25 or more. Lastly, I would ask those of you who are on this call, once you've visited our website, which should be live in the next 48 hours, to share that website with your entire personal networks so that those of your friends and family who are members of KPFA will know about our team and will know to vote for us when you receive electronic ballots or paper ballots. I really thank you for your time, and we're going to be taking questions, I understand, shortly.
Thank you. And Carol, how are we for time with questions? How would you like to handle that? Are there?
Carol, you're muted.
Okay.
Carol Coyote, you are muted.
Well, Jake, do you want to go ahead? Are there any questions? Does anybody want to raise their
I have
hand.
a quick logistical question as your newest KPFA member. Are the ballots being sent out by email? Is there a link on the site? Did I miss that part? I'm on the site, I don't see it.
Ballots come from the Pacifica Foundation. The whole election is run, so you will get a ballot and it will say either in the subject or the sender, August 15th, Pacifica Foundation, and then you log into that. I think you get a login and a password and you vote.
That's when I log in. Great. Okay, I'll look for that in the mail.
And
Okay.
What's the
I'm not
timeline on
really-
all this? When's this
August
finalized?
15th and then
Okay.
to October 15th, and then the decisions is November 1st.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, we do have time for maybe 10 minutes total of questioning. Or comments if people would like to ask things. I think the next person is Matthew Lewis.
Yes, thanks. My question is, has the deadline to join and in time to receive a ballot passed? And if not, and if the answer to that is no, when is the deadline?
The deadline has unfortunately passed. We are encouraging people still to become members and to help in our campaign, to endorse, to donate. And there will be another campaign probably next year. So it's not too late to participate, even if it's too late to join.
And if I may say this, Matthew is an incredible organizer. And even if you're not a member, Matthew, I personally know that you can get many, many folks to vote for us because you are an amazing organizer.
And we will have on Facebook and Twitter things to share. So we look forward to that too.
Okay, great.
But at this point, just clarifying, we're only basically trying to convert current KPF member votes, right? We're not, so putting it across our whole social, I mean, it could if we happen to be connected to other KPFA members, which we'll do, but it seems like us. Yeah, okay.
Yes, Steve,
Yeah.
the answer to that is absolutely yes, that those of us that, since the deadline is passed, the
Yep.
key is to reach people who are members.
Yeah,
Well, we also would like to reach donors too, so that'd be good.
right.
We definitely want donors, and they don't have to be members.
Yeah.
And we also want more people to know about KPFA and these issues that we're working on, that you're working on, like climate emergency and getting people elected, and that who are working on the progressive issues that we are.
Thank you. Yeah, that's just how I'll frame within my own social network, how I want to frame, the posts I put out there. I'm a former journalist as well, investigative journalist, so I totally respect the work that KPFA does and important. I am kind of curious how much influence, I know that KPFA is, the breadwinner, but do you have influence over the other 4 stations and their policies? And is it that you wield the biggest sword because you do make the most money and you have the news station, or
No.
how does supporting KPFA help the whole rise up, or are we still sort of in trouble as a whole, even if KPFA sort of rights the ship a little bit?
Carlos, do you want to talk about that?
A little bit. I'd like to also hear what Don wants to say. In this election, we are running for the KPFA local station board. That's the election. Yes, having our group in the local station board will help the network, but no, we cannot alter their local station boards. So there was a recent election for a change of the bylaws, and that is going to go to court because the results are going to be challenged. It was a mixed result, so it's going to be challenged. But anyway, if we get into the local station board at KPFA, we'll do what we can, but no, we do not have the majority in the Pacifica board, and that is a problem, and we will have to fight it. Don, I don't know if you want to add something.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you who are already KPFA members and Pacifica members, you know how chaotic this situation has been for quite a while, since bylaws were passed in 2001 that really allowed factions to take over the network. And we here at KPFA have been fortunate in that we've been able to continue to elect people to the local board who reflect the original vision of Pacifica. And that's probably not an accident, since Pacifica began here with KPFA. But these are very perilous times for the network, and there are no guarantees. But the one guarantee is, if you elect all of us, you will have a majority. We will have a majority on the board, a commanding majority on the local board, which then does give us some power on the national board. And so that's why it's terribly important that we have a clean sweep this time around. And we're hoping to accomplish that with your help individually. We're not asking for OR East Bay to endorse us, because we can't have that.
We can put it in our newsletter though, and we will.
Thank you.
That's fine, Carol.
And we would love if you have that newsletter, and we could put the names of the candidates. That would be great.
Okay, we'll do that.
Thank you.
And I'd be remiss, Carol asked me to detail a couple points that I forgot to do, because I threw out that there's incompetent leadership and corporate underwriting. And John knows this more than anything, but there's actually a current lawsuit against 2 of the current Pacifica board members. And the list of reasons are that they've lost $12 million in federal support in over just the last 8 years for failing to comply to public broadcasting regulations. They've allowed the nonprofit stations to be used for personal gain. They've ignored the California Attorney General's office, as well as their own attorneys, that their actions could endanger the network's tax-exempt status. And they have violated federal law for failure to make pension payments for the past 4 years, which has triggered a Department of Labor investigation. So I just wanted to give a little detail of the degree of what we're facing.
Can I jump in here for just a second?
Sure.
I want to echo and encourage every OR East Bay member to become a member of KPFA if you are not already. And if you are a member, to be sure and vote in this election. I mean, the whole goal here is essentially to save KPFA from its national board. And the local boards, I don't know if any of you have ever attended a local board meeting, but it is a study in chaos. And the idea of having a controlling progressive majority on the board could bring some order to that chaos. And so it is absolutely imperative. KPFA really is in danger, unlike any time before in its history. And if we lose it, we lose the one truly progressive voice we have in not just the Bay Area, but throughout California and most of the United States. So if you are not a member, please join anyway, despite the passing of the time limit, so that you will at least have that voice in upcoming elections. It's going to be absolutely critical. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Okay, we have time for one more comment. If somebody wants to say something or ask a short question, max 2 minutes for the whole interaction. Stop smiling, Don. Okay, anybody? Okay, Paola.
Thank you. Oh, excellent way to pronounce my name, Carol. Thank
Good.
you. Hey, just a question. I know that this is a radio station up here in Berkeley. KPFK is a sister station in Los Angeles. Do the boards of both stations collaborate, or is this just a totally different thing, separate thing? That's what I'm curious about. Thank you.
You should, the answer to that is just consider Pacifica stations as states' rights stations, right? Each station goes its own way, even though we're all part of the network. and there's no accountability. So there's very little collaboration between stations. And that's unfortunate because if you listen to the programming on KPFA, that's the model of what should happen across the network. But if you listen to the programming on other stations throughout the network, you're going to pull your hair out, quite frankly. So that's the challenge for those of us here at KPFA, to maintain our journalistic standards while encouraging the other stations to move in our direction.
And we can do that.
Yeah. So
I'm asking because at my job, I'm actually collaborating with Enfoque Latino, which is a Spanish language show that runs every Thursday with Ruben Tapia, who also has connections with Radio Bilingüe. And I'm just curious, and I know that KPFA has great salsa music, I believe it is. Anyway, so I'm just kind of curious with the collaborations that work together. But I agree that the programming that we do have on KPFA is really good. But I do know that there's a 1 or 2 shows, and I just know about this show with Ruben Tapia and Enfoque Latino. Is good programming because I'm providing content for that show through my job. So I was just curious, but thank you. Good luck to everybody.
Thank you, Paola.
Could I ask a question?
Okay, thank you all you.
Hello.
This has been really informative, and I really hope that all the people on here tonight, if they're not members, that they join, and if they are members, to vote, and we will be publishing in our next newsletter everybody's name.
I think
and more than
Joaquin-
once.
I think
And
Joaquin had a,
you know who to vote for.
I think Joaquin had something he wanted to.
Okay, Joaquin.
Oh, I didn't know how to jump in there, but
Okay.
I just blurted out. Why can't we just endorse this slate? Don said something about he didn't want our endorsement or what?
Yeah, we do not want to have political organizations or political party affiliated organizations endorsing the slate, because remember, this is a nonprofit media corporation. And so we're interested in individuals endorsing, and we're interested in community organizations endorsing. But like, we don't want the Democratic Party or the Green Party or any other political party sticking their fingers into KPFA and Pacifica. And unfortunately, that is the case now, that the Green Party and other groups on the left have made it their mission to take over stations. So we're opposed to that, and therefore we're opposed to any political party or affiliates endorsing formally.
But let me restate what Don said. We do encourage individual, any of you who want to endorse, please, when you go to the website, you can add your name and we'd be very grateful.
And if you're a member of any other community organization that's involved, in activism, sure, encourage them to support us.
And anyone involved in climate emergency, especially, yeah.
In
Thank
fact,
you all so much.
we depend on every one of you here to go out and garner support for what is a progressive movement and what could change America.
Carol Coyote, I want to thank you personally for reaching out to us and making it possible for us to come and join you all today.
Thank
Much
you.
appreciated.
Thank you.
Hey, we're really glad to see you, Don, and everybody, and vote for them, you guys, and tell all your friends, get with it. Okay, we have to move on now. Thank you so much, all you KPFA candidates, for being here tonight. Okay, we're going to move on to the star of this month, Janani Ramachandran, who we hope like hell makes it and wins. And it's going to take all of us doing a lot of things to get her through. The other night, the Young Dems group in Alameda County ended up not having enough votes to endorse anybody. So that's a clue that we need to get busy. So we're going to be working with other OR groups and having some phone banks for her. And Jake's, who is our representative to OR California, is going to talk about it. Go for it, Jake.
Hey everyone. So I attend the weekly Our Revolution California meeting, which also includes Mike Olis from National. So this gives us the access to national resources, and we got them to set up a Janani Ramachandran 8018 phone banking for us, and we're going to set up 2 of them. The first one is coming up next Friday. It's basically between 12 and 7 p.m. or 12 and 8:30 p.m. They just extended it. And so you can just jump in there and make calls whenever you want to. We'll send out the links through email, obviously. And you can sign up for a shift if you need to also. And the one after that is going to be after the following Friday, which is going to also be after the statewide call. So we're going to also get recruitment from there. And OR California will be recruiting widely from the full California, all the California chapters. So hopefully we'll be able to get a lot of phone calls made and a lot of minutes talking to constituents here. And then we also got our Mobilize account linked up finally. And so if you are on mobilize.us, you probably noticed our stuff's showing up on there because we finally got it on there. There's a Janani Ramachandran phone bank set up there. And Janani's campaign also has their own phone banking. So if you want to continue doing it outside of us, you can just jump on there and sign up for more shifts. And I think, who is Otto speaking or Richard speaking?
Jake, I need to correct something you said. You the first Our Revolution phone bank for Janani is this Friday, not August 6th, not next Friday. And I'm posting the link.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So I'm posting the link in there right now, and hopefully now that it's known that it'll be 8:30, hopefully that'll be updated soon.
Yeah, I'll add that also. He is running for 8018 special election. Rob Bonta was appointed to Attorney General, I believe, and that vacated his seat. And now she won the runoff against his wife, who is the other candidate running for that seat. So obviously we do not support the corporate PAC money, and she's taking a lot of it. So Janani is who we are turning to. Plus Janani has a much better platform, starting with $22 an hour minimum wage. Who is speaking for Janani today, Carol? Is it? I don't see.
She's going to speak at 5:30, but she's not here yet. I would just like to mention, somebody wants to know if KPFA could have a debate between Janani and Mia Bonta. Is any KPFA person still here that could answer that?
We are not in charge of programming as local board members. Programming is totally separate and is part of the news department. That doesn't mean we won't ask.
Could you ask Fred and get back with us?
I'll see what I can get through to
Yeah,
them.
that would be cool.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay.
think Richard is also, Richard Lee, are you part of the campaign also, or?
I'm just a volunteer. I'm not an official spokesperson for the campaign, but I did just text message Otto and seeing if they're planning to show up. So I'll let you know if he replies with anything.
Carol,
I'm back and forth with Emma right now, campaign manager. They're expecting to be there right at 5:30 to 5:45. She's got a tight window, and then Otto's going to talk a little bit about 5:45 on little volunteer recruitment and more details.
Okay, so it's 5:29. She'll be here in 1 minute.
That's the hope, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would just like to mention.
So then I'll go
Again, in
after
the
them.
chat, we have the Mobilize number. If people want to copy that down or copy it on your computer so you can actually sign up for these phone banks, so we can have a big OR phone bank.
Carol, one suggestion also is whoever wants to have that debate at KPFA, don't be shy. You can go to the KPFA website, look at the email address for the upfront program, for any other programs, and you can just send them an email and suggest, I'm saying you or whoever wants that to be on the air. I mean, each individual program, they have a lot of leeway on them. I mean, they decide what they put on the air. So they might, some of them might take you up on it.
Okay, yeah, maybe we can get me or Jake to do it in the next day or so and figure out, if we can get something going.
Yeah.
I think that would expose a lot of people to her that don't know who she is.
Sure.
And she has a lot of great ideas. I'm sure you guys have all listened to her.
Yeah.
I would hope so anyhow. $22 minimum wage. She does not take money from anybody that's on our no-no list. She has a lot of integrity. Okay, they're about to join us. I'll just mention again that Friday morning from 9:30 to noon, we're going to be out at the farmers market in Old Oakland having a table for her. And if you'd like to join us, let us know. Our Rev East Bay at mail.com. Or Jake, do you want to put in a link for another email link?
You can also email info@ourrevolutioneastbay.org.
Okay, great. We'd really like to see a couple more people come out there. And then Sunday we'll be at Temescal Market. And we're going to do this every Friday and Sunday through August. The election is at the end of August.
Maybe we can do the TOPA updates now and while we're waiting.
Okay, yeah, Matthew, if we have to interrupt you because she's short on time, would that work or not?
Yeah, I can do it, and then I'll start from the beginning at the end if necessary.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, great. I serve as Our Revolution East Bay's representative to the Yes to TOPA Coalition. TOPA stands for the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act. I'm just going to summarize what that is as a recap and then give the latest updates. So basically what TOPA is a law that says, and it's mostly most known for being in DC, where basically it says, if a landlord decides they want to sell their building, then first tenants have the right, before the landlord can put it on the market, to basically the tenants have the right to make an offer to buy the building. The landlord doesn't have to accept the offer, but they can if they want to. And then the second thing is that if the landlord, after the landlord puts it on the market, if they find a buyer, before they can sell it to the person who's interested in buying it, they have to go back to the tenants and say, somebody is offered to buy it for, $1 million, or maybe it's a big building, so it's like, $10 million. If you, the tenants collectively, you have the opportunity to match that. And then if they can match it, including with like city subsidy, or subsidy from like a nonprofit or city government, state government, then you have the right to buy the building at that same price. There's a few slightly different additional things where, like, if the tenants can't do it or are uninterested in doing it, a nonprofit also has the right to bid for the building, which is a great additional benefit. So that's basically what TOPA does. It doesn't require any landlords to force any landlords to sell their building, though that might be really great if we did require that. But it's just, but again, it doesn't do that. It just says when the landlord wants to sell, they have to give the tenants the opportunity to purchase it. That's what the act does. Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act. So what's been happening with the law? So it was in committee. It was in the City of Berkeley's Land Use Committee for many months. Oh, that might be Janani.
It is.
Okay, then I'll say what's happening with TOPA after Janani and her campaign speak.
Okay, we'll see.
I hope everybody stays for the whole meeting.
Okay, welcome, Janani. We are so excited about what's going on with your campaign. And we were just talking about Our Revolution statewide phone calls that are being set up and the farmers markets that OREB is doing. And we're ready to hear about more.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for all your support so far. We are in the top 2. It's a super exciting time. We proved a lot of people wrong. We surprised others. But to me, this is an exciting moment because it shows that people-powered movements can win. Voters in the 18th Assembly District really are excited about progressive policies, excited about raising the minimum wage, about stronger tenant protections, about a Green New Deal, about Medicare for all. And the energy and the momentum we've been building throughout this campaign is only getting stronger, in large part because of our incredible volunteers. We might not have the $2 million that my opponent does, but we have over 600 active volunteers, and we're going to need even more to continue this momentum and make it happen. I'm really, really grateful for everyone that's door knocked, written postcards, dropped literature, whichever way you choose and that you're able to support us, really, really helps. We've gotten some exciting new endorsements in the past couple of weeks since the primary, including from the API Legislative Caucus, the LGBTQ Legislative Caucus, Victory Fund, from a couple of local electeds, including Jovanka Beckles, from the Latino Task Force, which is really going to help us expand reach in this district, from so many others. But the most exciting one for us is the City of Alameda Democratic Club. So for those of you not intimately familiar with this district, it is Alameda, most of Oakland, and San Leandro. Despite being the candidate not from Alameda, we got the City of Alameda endorsement, which to me shows our strength in all three cities, shows our growing strength and people and voters' excitement about having a people-powered, progressive, corporate-free movement. There have been some debates in the past couple of weeks. We've had 2 formal debates, and I think there are about 2 left. Follow along our social media channels to see when, the next ones are going to be posted. I think the debates are going quite well. And just an exciting thing that I've been noticing in the past couple of weeks, because while the first time around, there were a couple of corporate-free candidates, including Victor Aguilar and James Aguilar, both of whom have kindly endorsed me. Now it's just one. Now it's just me. And voters are really resonating with the idea of the importance of rooting money out of politics. Even folks who are like, well, I can't agree with every part of your platform, but it really matters that you're going to be part of trying to get corporate money out of politics. And that's exciting to see that voters are really ready for that as well. And every day, the stronger we grow, the more scared that corporations really get. When McDonald's just the other day poured in $25,000 to my opponent because they heard about the $22 living wage, and they're like, no, we're not cool with that. Same thing with health insurance companies. The more they see how strongly I'm going to fight for Medicare for all, they are pouring in money into trying to make sure I don't get elected. But we won't let that happen because people power can win. I'm happy to answer a couple of questions about the state of the race or even policy, anything that you all want to hear about. And then after that, we'll turn it over to my field director, Otto, really quick to make sure that folks know specifically about some ways to get involved. But I'm happy to answer questions or chat more or take this however folks want to go.
I would just like to mention one thing. A few minutes ago, we had a number of people that are candidates for KPFA here, and we asked if there was a possibility of you and Mia Bonte having a debate on KPFA. If that can be arranged, would you be interested?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to follow up on it. We have no idea if it'll be a yes or a no.
Well, Bonta will not do it, and then it'll be a Q&A.
Ah.
When she bails.
Well,
yes.
She doesn't want to lose another one.
Okay.
And yes, special shout out to Coach Finch for canvassing in San Leandro yesterday. We're gaining strength in Alameda. We're also really gaining strength in San Leandro. I met several members of Our Revolution San Leandro earlier today, and folks are really excited, have signs outside their doors, have joined us in canvassing and other efforts. So it's been some great solidarity building there too.
Okay, before Otto gets here, would anybody like to ask questions or make comments?
Oh, I am here. Although if anybody has any questions, they can
Oh.
go ahead.
Otto, Nelson put something in the chat about us being 6,000 votes away from cinching this thing. Can you be a little more, can you illuminate that a little bit?
Well, sure. Yeah. Basically, the initial distance between us and Bonta after the primary was 8,000 votes, a difference of about 13%. Obviously a not insignificant amount, but also a pretty manageable amount. So the easiest way to ensure victory is to make sure that we have at least 8,000 votes in the tank the hard way. Now, that's going to be difficult in an election like this. So, let me stress, for instance, we got, our 16,000 votes in the primary, not, exclusively through reaching them, but largely through word of mouth. It was enough for us to reach, about 3,000 people the hard way and count on our other means of outreach doing the same. So we are aiming to get at least 6K votes in the tank, right? We've got about 4K to go. It's a very achievable number. And then you can generally anticipate to get about 20 to 25% more than that certified number through word of mouth. The other thing to keep in mind that we are reliant heavily upon, well, I'll take you through our entire field program in a moment. But the other exciting thing about this election is just the enormous amount of voters who voted for eliminated candidates in the primary. God, who's knocking on the door right now? Those numbers dwarf the gap between us and Bonta in our own votes, right? So you take not only, you take Victor and James, 6,000 progressive votes right there. Joel Britton, other minor progressive candidates, each got about 1,000. And the really compelling ones, of course, the interesting questions are Vela, who has not endorsed, has scrupulously avoided giving Bonta any preeminence over us. And of course, the possibility of what happens with the remaining Republicans, right? We've got large numbers of votes in play. And probably the most important thing to keep in mind is that they've demonstrated that they would rather not vote for Bonta given the chance. So it's entirely doable, but we want to make sure that we are doing absolutely everything that we can over this last month. 4K in a month is an achievable goal. I've met it on a couple of campaigns, most recently John Avalos's in San Francisco last year, but I know what it takes to get 4,000 votes in a month, and that requires incredibly dedicated volunteers. Now, obviously, I'm looking at some people right now who fit that bill. Nelson, Richard, Finch, my God, and others who I am very fond of and know. Kabir, Alfred, very good to see you all. But we are going to need an army out there. We were talking about 10 to 15 IDs per person per walk. We're talking about 7 or 8 per call shift. So we need a great deal. I would really like it if you could all come out with us. Anything that you can do, even an hour, even 45 minutes of your day, can be potentially hugely consequential. Basically, there's a pyramid of what we would like people to do, and it's sort of a measure of what is the most effective way to get votes and what is sort of the hardest to do. For instance, not everybody lives here. Not everybody has a car. Not everybody, is willing and ready to go out and talk to strangers. So if you can possibly canvass people door to door, that's the most important thing that you can do. It's the best way to get votes. However, if you can't do that, next best thing is to phone bank with us. If you're not up to talk to strangers, next best thing is to text bank. If you don't want to interact with people, next best thing is to deliver signs or literature. But we have something for absolutely everybody, and they all come together.
Postcards.
And postcards. If you don't want any of that, you can write postcards. We want to get a whole nother 6,000 out. We've got 3,000 already, but that is also going to take some people. So to run you through the weekly schedule, Monday through Wednesday are sort of free-form days where people come by the campaign HQ to get trained by me for future in-person activities. Then Tuesday through Friday, we generally have phone banking and text banking going on every evening remotely. We also have, of course, permanent delivery and postcard writing programs. All you need to do is let me know. We will send somebody out to you. Then Thursday and Friday, we meet to canvass and lit drop in Oakland. And then Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m., both days, and potentially in more cities simultaneously, we will be visiting one of our main cities, Oakland, Alameda, San Leandro, to have our main event for the week, right? We'd really like to see a few more people at those. We're trying to get up to just about 55 canvas shifts a week. We're currently hitting around 45. So it's an achievable difference, but a group like this is just the right size to make that potentially decisive difference. So first order of business, Kara, let's talk after the call. I will get you set up for anything that you might want with lit dropping. But first, I'm going to post my personal number. I would like anybody in this campaign, you don't need to be like an officer or anything to ask me a question. I will let you know anything you might want to know about how to get involved or how the campaign's going. And then I would like it very much if you could just do the simple task of just going to jananiforca.com. I'll post it. And just signing up for the volunteer sign up form that pulls up for you. Once you do that, I will give you a personal call the same day, and we can talk individually about the best ways for you to get involved. Like I said, we need about 10 more canvassers a week. We could probably use another 4 or 5 people combined doing farmers markets, calling, and writing of postcards at the least. So I'm hoping, what I would really like to ask is that each and every person here thinks seriously about what they can do to come out at least once for us in one way or another, even if that be only writing, 10 postcards and mailing them for us. This is a highly achievable election. I've been doing these, for a long time now, and I know what it feels like, both in terms of numbers and on the ground, when we have a chance to break through and make real change. And this is as likely, as powerful a situation as I've ever been a part of. And certainly I, as the person who's responsible for field, am not going to let this remarkable person who I've come to support down in any matter of turning people out, right? If I know that we are 3 shifts away from winning this thing and lose it, I will never live with myself. So I'd like you all to join me. If we all just come out once, twice, a couple of times, we're in a very, very winnable space for this. So let me know if there are any questions about specific field activity. But what I would like you all to ask you all is, if you have not already, just follow that link, sign up as a volunteer. I'll tell you what, you can always change your mind later, but take this moment, sign up now, and I'll talk to each and every one of you over the next day or so. Thanks.
There's a whole lot going on right now. There's all of the canvassing and phone banking that the actual campaign is doing. There is the phone banks with Our Revolution. There's the Our Revolution tabling. There's many, many other things. We need everybody out here. This has got to happen.
Could not agree more. So
sign up for something, you guys. 2 hours, man.
Hey, this is Paola. I'm just curious, are you guys doing phone banking in Spanish? I'd be happy to phone bank in Spanish. Lots of English speakers, but are we hitting that Spanish speaking community?
Yes, we are. I'm very happy to say that we've had our Spanish phone banking up for, I think, a little over 2 weeks now, going pretty well, but we could use more people for it. It's not an enormous group of volunteers doing it, but we're getting good results. And we hope to expand that into in-person Spanish canvassing as soon as we get our Spanish literature in for this last round of things. And if you'd be interested in either working on that or maybe suggesting some other volunteers, we would love to have you do that too. But yeah, if you sign up at that link, I will give you a call probably tomorrow afternoon if you have time. And I would love to walk you through all the possibilities for our Spanish programs.
And on that note, really quick, we are in the process of setting up on the recommendation of a local labor leader who wants to set this up, a Latinos for Ramachandran task force, which will hopefully have those efforts amplified by the Latino task force that just voted to endorse us.
Yeah, and I would say if you're interested in offering some advice on that, where to go to reach people, where to make appearances, even, questions of, policy, what we should put on our scripts, please get involved. We would really love to hear any ideas people have.
Great, thank you.
So Carol, okay, I think the next thing, are we finished, Janani and Otto?
Oh, let me just say one more thing about Finch's very generous offer to match donations. We are at the point of the campaign where Bonta has started hiring, armies of zombies to go out in their shirts and, tepidly canvass people. But there's a lot of them. We need to keep going. And this is the time when a group of canvassers, paid canvassers on our team would make a great difference. Obviously, I would love it if everything could be done, voluntarily. But, it's sort of like me. I became a professional campaign worker, not because I needed the money, but because I wanted to do this full time and I needed at least enough to support myself. There are a lot of really young, really brilliant people. We pay them $22 an hour, consistent with our $22 an hour statewide minimum wage pledge. We try to, have our ethics begin with us. who would love to dedicate time to us and, have other commitments, have other responsibilities, have other needs. Any donations right now go as directly as possible, not just to helping us win this, but to helping us, begin the careers, like my career began, of young people who are interested in politics and could use a hand getting in. So it would mean a great deal if people could give a little.
Okay, I think Matthew has a question.
Yes, I'm so happy you let us know that you're looking at higher paid canvassers. I was wondering if you could I would like to help get the word out, and possibly if the board's okay with it, have our Revolution East Bay get the word out, because I know that in addition to having the money to hire canvassers, finding canvassers quickly can sometimes be an issue. So I was wondering how we could get the information about like who to contact, how much it's paying, the hours of working, so that folks can spread the word out to folks who might be interested in this.
We do not have money for much yet. We're in a position to potentially hire a few people for this next weekend, but really the first step is to get the cash in hand. That's why it's such a large problem. That being said, I'd be interested in meeting any candidates, finding about their interests, and they would be the first people that I would follow up with once we are able to move forward.
Otto, can you let me know how much they get per day or per hour? You know
22
that?
an hour. We usually hire people for 3 to 4 hours a day. We'll want them to do more if they're up for it around the election week. Can get pretty decent, but ideally 20 hours a person is what I would like to be providing people. But we need to raise money to be able to have a core doing that.
Otto, so then just to clarify, so like, is it okay, or should I hold off on like posting in a few places that like the campaign is looking to hire has a few people?
I wouldn't post it publicly yet, to be frank, because I would need to disappoint people. If you know 1 or 2 people who might be interested, who you would discreetly like to put in touch with me, I would love to.
Okay, I was gonna post in a few WhatsApp.
Hold off on that for now. I just don't want to have to decline people. But
Gotcha.
I was very interested, as soon as I'm able to, follow through with people, to follow up.
Totally understand it. And if and when that situation changes, let the board know, and then they can tell me.
Yeah. Do you want to PM me, in fact, a phone number or an email I can reach you and the board at? And
I'll send you a Facebook message or a Facebook friend request right now.
Okay, thanks.
I do have another question. This is Paola.
Okay.
Just, I'm on the interested in volunteering with that campaign page, and I just saw something on text banking. So it says from 4 to 5. Is it through the evening? Because I have a full-time job. I'm done at 5:30. So I'm kind of curious, is it more flexible for the evenings?
We could potentially set something up. The thing is that text banking tends to go very quickly. Like one person can hit 5,000 people in an hour. So so that we can sort of chew through the results, we try to keep it to a limited amount. But yeah, if you would want to go later, there's no reason that I couldn't set that up.
Yeah, and I actually didn't see any opportunities for phone banking. I just saw, and I don't know if I'm missing it, but I see postcard writing, recurring daily canvassing, visibility at the Grand Lake.
Yeah, that's just what's on the Mobilize. We refresh our events every week because some details change, and if they hold over, they'll be inconsistent. If you just sign up, you will get a mass text tomorrow afternoon around 5:30, right when you get off work, with all the upcoming events for this week.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your assistance.
Oh, of course. And so, yeah, just to clarify for everybody, phone banking every week is Tuesday through Friday, 5 p.m. Don't worry about signing up for specific events now. If we can just get you in the systems as a volunteer, you'll get reached out to tomorrow with all information about what's happening for a given week.
Paola, I just want to reiterate from earlier, Our Revolution is having a phone bank this Friday that is going to be from 12 to 8:30. So there's an opportunity for you to phone bank through Our Revolution for Janani.
Excellent. Yeah, what
that will be statewide and maybe nationally. So it'll be a lot of people.
Yeah, and the link is in the chat. I posted it for this again.
Yeah. Excellent. No, we're really excited about that. And I should also stress to everybody that, these dates and times are for like our big events. However, we're a very agile campaign and we prioritize being set up to help to let people volunteer, when they have time. So for instance, if you wanted to canvass your own neighborhood on your own time, it would just be a matter of us setting up time for me to talk to you on the phone, figure out how to get you materials, and we can bring that out to you. Same with phone banking, same with texting. We can always set up a sort of a customized list that works with your own time and location. Mondays through Wednesdays are generally kept free of major events. So I'm available and my team are, about basically 24/7, 24/3 those days to run things out to, or at least train anybody who has time to spare.
Otto, you and I talked about this and kind of all the technicalities of donation in kind. We had a member who's not with our revolution anymore, but she's still very active for us, who has a button machine. And I think about tabling. That's always one of the biggest things when we were doing Bernie work was the buttons. Getting us out there and getting some stuff and some merch and some design work. We have a wonderful board member who does design. So maybe we'll try to figure that out so that we do our tabling events. We'll have a little something that people can get with, and that's something tangible.
Yeah,
they can
actually,
show.
we have somebody on our board who makes buttons. If you can provide me with something, we can make some for the passing out at tabling and stuff.
Yeah, we can get you
It
some
would have to
graphics.
be right
Ideally,
away.
best thing is to file it as an independent, or not an independent, my God, as an in-kind contribution. But yeah, we can get you some graphics pretty easily.
Okay, if you can get that to me, we'll get it to him and ask him to make not a lot, but some for the tabling.
The other thing, Carol, I saw your message about needing some materials so that your members could do farmers markets. I was wondering, would it be okay if I just dropped you off with like a good, healthy amount of materials and you could distribute amongst OREB whenever somebody wants to do
Absolutely, and
Wonderful.
includes some signs.
Great.
And yeah, because
So why
we
don't we
ended up
talk-
not going out the other day because we didn't have anything. and we
Great. Yeah,
really
let's
wanna
talk
be out
either
there doing
tonight
this.
or tomorrow, and I
Okay.
will find a time in the next like 24 hours,
Yeah,
run
just
you out
leave
enough
it on my
materials
porch.
that your
It's
team
got
can.
the address.
Okay.
Yeah, possibly a wide variety of messaging on the flyers too.
Yeah, certainly. And of course, we have, different phone and text scripts, so as well as canvassing. So while we are sort of too poor to have a million different kinds of literature, we are reaching people with a variety of different messages in our one-on-one interactions. So if anybody wants to throw in ideas or, know if a particular group is being served, reach out to me. If we're not, we can set something up.
Would it be possible to have PDF files that you could send so we could do our own printing of standard?
Oh, absolutely.
literature?
Well, of campaign materials, you mean, of flyers?
Yep.
Yeah, we do get in trouble if anybody is handing out campaign materials, and even if it's hand printed, it technically is without that in-kind contribution form and write-off. So I would want to put you in touch with maybe talk to my campaign manager and see what, if anything, it might just be a matter of printing a disclaimer. But we'd be happy to have you do that. I just want to make sure we're dotting our, I's and crossing our T's.
Okay.
Okay, is that it, you guys? Can we move on? We still got stuff to go and it's almost 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I will get out of your hair, but I do want to say you guys have been one of the absolute best endorsers we have had the privilege to have on this campaign. Your dedication, your tenacity, really the friendship of so many of your members throughout this campaign and my career in general has been incredible. We're really lucky to have you. I will say we're in the home stretch here. This last month is going to be crazy. To the question all of you are asking, yes, we can pull this off, but I do want you all to ask yourselves very seriously, if I haven't already, can I give $56? And if I can't do that, can I join the campaign this week for a few hours? Thank you again for everything. Happy birthday, Steve. Thanks again, Carol. I'll see you all soon, I hope.
Okay, thanks so much, Otto.
Right,
Okay,
bye-bye.
guys, we're running out of time. So here's what we're gonna do.
Wait,
First of all,
I still need to
first-
finish my announcement.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Matthew's gonna finish. If he's here, Igor's gonna make an announcement, and then we're gonna close with music. Go for it.
Yeah, I think.
All right, folks. Yes, all right. So okay, right, folks. Yeah.
Can't hear you.
Sorry, I was accidentally muted. Okay, right. So yeah, it's time to wrap up the TOPA announcement that we cut it halfway. So just to summarize what I said earlier, TOPA, Tenant Opportunity Purchase Act, basically gives tenants the opportunity to make an offer to buy the building whenever the landlord wants to sell it as well, and then to match the price. So what happened, TOPA was in the City of Berkeley Land Use Committee for many months. And then what happened in May was the mayor of Berkeley, Jesse Arreguín, gutted the law without warning. Didn't tell anybody in the coalition that he was going to do so. Gutted it in many ways. First off, he exempted like 98% of tenants who live in single family homes, meaning that BlackRock can come up and just buy up all of their housing and they won't have the opportunity to buy it instead. Significantly shortened the amount of time that tenants have to decide whether or not they want to buy the building, including talking to each other, coming up with like money, getting a loan from a bank or from city for affordable housing. So making it harder for them to actually use the law, even if on paper it applies to them. And two other really bad things that I'm blanking on off the top of my head, and I apologize that I'm blanking on, and a lot of really bad things that he didn't have to do it. We only found out about it the morning of because he had to legally post it on the city website. So that happened in May. What's happened since then? Well, first, the mayor has, the coalition has tried to reach out about undoing the amendments he made. The mayor has refused to respond to their requests to speak because he's very bitter that the coalition had the audacity to call him to publicly say that he'd gutted the law. So that's been that's been a problem. And also other council members who had previously been talking to the coalition whenever they reached out are no longer responding because he's basically, our understanding as the coalition is he's been intimidating them into not working with us. So that's really bad. The most recent thing that's happened was, and then again, this was done without telling anybody in the coalition, the mayor decided to delay taking up the law. The law was expected to be taken up this summer, but he delayed it until the city council, presumably until the city council recess ends. The coalition actually only found out about it because that this was happening because somebody from Berkeley side called up somebody on the coalition's committee and was like, "What are your thoughts about this?" And so we're expecting it to be taken up sometime no earlier, probably than mid-September. But there's also a possibility that he just calls a special meeting with little notice and before then. So we have to be on guard and prepared. Sorry, what? Someone said they can't hear me?
No. I was talking
Okay.
to my grandchild.
Okay. So we have to be prepared to kind of turn out we have to be able to prepare to turn out possibly on a relatively quick notice to fight to undo those changes the mayor did to gut the law, because we need a strong, comprehensive TOPA law. This is going to be set. This is like the first or one of the first TOPA laws to be passed outside of the greater Metro DC area, the Metro DC area. And so it's going to set a precedent, for instance, for what they do in Oakland, what they do in so many other places. So if we get a weak law, it's going to be a weak law for everybody, not just a weak law for folks in Berkeley. And that's why Coalition is doing some stuff like flyering to counter stuff that's coming from the landlord lobby. And we'll probably hear more about that next month after Janani's campaign is over, because the board has made what I think is a really accurate decision to focus on Janani's campaign. So that's the update on where stuff is. So, and hopefully we'll have an update in a month.
Okay, we have a brief question, very brief, from Paola and then Igor, and then we're going to close with music.
Okay, great. I'm also part of, as a member of the Berkeley Tenants Union, I'm also part of the Working Coalition, and we are flyering. I actually have flyers. If people are interested in flyering, they can contact me. They can also contact Matthew. I have staple guns, I have staples, and I have flyers if people want to do that, to flyer. I know that we're focusing on Janani's campaign, but the effort is there and the material is there for folks to want to flyer. Thank you.
Okay, I'd just like to mention that hopefully starting in September, we can be doing the Berkeley farmers markets at least one a month. And at that time, we would definitely want to have some of those.
Okay, great. Let me know. Let me know. I've got plenty of
Okay.
flyers and I can get more.
Okay, okay. Now we're moving on. Our final speaker of the night is Igor Tregub. Go for it, Igor.
Thank you so much for having me on. I just wanted to give you a quick update, and I promise this will be quick, on the utility profit grab. 2 months ago, through the help of all of you, we defeated a legislative effort that would have put rooftop solar and other distributed renewable resources out of reach to many who can least afford it on their own. Unfortunately, while we won that battle in the legislature, the real battle is being fought at the California Public Utilities Commission. And unfortunately, and this is by design, this is absolutely PG&E and other investor-owned utilities trying to get their own way, because these 5 CPUC commissioners are only accountable to the governor. So how can we fight back? I posted some links in the chat. Number 1, please sign the petition. We already delivered 30,000 petitions to the governor, and we have plans by the end of the summer to deliver 200,000 more. Please go on the website, which I also put in the chat. It's the Solar Rights Alliance, so that you can find out about other opportunities to get involved. We have weekly emails that go out with all the up-to-date information, and we have monthly coalition calls. Finally, if you hear, or if you or anyone you know gets outreach to by a group calling themselves Affordable Clean Energy for All, as Pamela Price would say, don't get it twisted. That is not an equity group. That is an AstroTurf group that is funded by PG&E, Sempra, and SoCalGas, and other investor-owned utilities. So if you know anyone who has signed something around the cost shift, please let them know what this is so that they can remove their signature. Because as you and I both know, the only cost shift and the real cost shift is the one that all of us have to pay utilities for fires that they're continuing to start, including 2 weeks ago. And that is bullshit. So this, we've also introduced a resolution in the California Democratic Party, which will be heard at the end of August. If you are involved as a delegate in the Democratic Party, I'd love to talk to you, would love to get your support. We'll put my contact info in the chat. And that is my announcement. I yield my time back unless there are questions.
Igor, thank you so much for coming. You know, I messed up on something, you guys, and it has to be taken care of. We can't not do it. And then we will have the singing. And what that is, we have people here from the North Bay that want to form an Our Revolution group. And I'm kind of wondering, and I'd like to hear from a couple people on our board. Is this something maybe we should have them come to our board meeting on Friday and discuss it? Would that work for Jessica, for you? Would that work for OREB board people? Can people say something about that?
Yeah, that was actually something we talked about in the Our Revolution California meetings, was refreshing old chapters and rebuilding them if necessary. And so we came up with kind of almost like an apprenticeship. So Our Revolution North Bay will basically work out of Our Revolution East Bay And also we'll give them our infrastructure and help them set up. And their leadership will also not join, but temporarily come to our board to see how the operations work and the processes work. And eventually they'll get their feet grounded, and then they can step off and then become a real Our Revolution North Bay.
Oh, okay. Susanna is in favor of them coming too. So I know there's a couple people here. Ruskell, are you still on here? I know you're North Bay, and who else have we got here? We've got Jessica. I think we had at least one more person. Jessica, would you be able to come to our meeting this coming Friday?
What time is it? Hillary's on the call as well. What time is your meeting?
It starts at 7 o'clock, and we can then just sit down privately and talk about it.
Okay, I could do that.
Could you do that? Okay. Can you put your phone number or your email in so I can get it to you?
Yeah, I'll message it to you. And Jake has it too.
Oh, Jake, you already have it?
Yeah.
Okay, who else is here from the North Bay?
Hillary, you still there?
Jake, do you have Hillary's information?
No, I think I just have Jessica's.
Okay, Jessica, do you have Hillary's?
Yeah, I could. Let's see. It looks like she got off the call. Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Okay, Ruskell, are you still on here? And if so, would you be able to be part of that?
Ruskell looks like he's dropped off also.
Okay, I'll contact him. Because that's 3 people from the North Bay. And if we can talk like at a meeting, we can maybe actually get something happening and they can eventually get their own thing going. So
how many, Jessica, how many people did you talk to at the M4A?
Well, we went to the rally for Medicare for All last week, and there was about 15 of us. I think about, I don't know, 5 or 6 people were interested in working on this. And
is Linda Carpenter interested?
I mentioned it to her. She said she couldn't be on the call today because her daughter's getting married, but I think I'm not sure if she's interested in doing this or not. But
she's done a lot of really independent things for Bernie, and she's been to a lot of OR events.
Yes,
and,
I'm gonna work on her some more. But I brought it up. She was there, and we talked about it, and she couldn't be here today. But yeah, I'm gonna.
How about Maggie? Was Maggie available to be in this?
Maggie, I'm actually going to see her on Sunday, so I'll bring it up. But she's going back to school and working, so I'm not sure how much time she has to do stuff.
And
but yeah.
How about Karen Prius?
Karen, that's a good. She's coming to we're having a Bernie barbecue next Sunday. I'm hosting it, so yeah, I'm going to bring up this with all of them again next.
Oh, okay. So we'll meet Friday night, and then you'll take it back to them.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Okay, it sounds like a plan finally. Okay, we are now ready to move in to our great singers, Sudia, Paloma, and Craig.
I'm sorry I got distracted at the beginning. I lost track because 2 of my granddaughters arrived, and then all of a sudden my daughter says, it's after 4.